Welcome, friends. We begin today integrating knowledge, love, and sacrifice as we consider the teachings of Master Dwal Kul related to ideas, ideals, and illusion, and consider the rules of thought, integrating what we know and are told of the rays of life and the constitution of man relating to the initiations and the techniques that we have been studying and practicing. Master DK advises in Glamour a World Problem that aspirants would do well to avoid any concentration at all upon the physical body and learn gradually to shift their focus of attention into the etheric body. Necessarily, the physical body is active and potent, but increasingly, it should be regarded as an automaton, influenced and directed by inspiration emanating from points of spiritual tension, sentient, conscious love emanating from the soul, directed by illumination coming from higher sources than the life in the three worlds, and the soul as the vehicle of monadic impression until such time as the Antakarana is built, that bridge in mental matter which will eventually link the monad and the personality. In reviewing the rays, and we will in silence review some very short statements by Master Dwal Kul relating to each of the rays, let's review what a ray is and does. A ray confers through its energy peculiar physical conditions and determines the quality of the astral emotional nature. It colors the mind body. It controls the distribution of energy. For the rays are of differing rates of vibration and govern a particular center in the body, differing with each ray through which that distribution is made. Each ray works through one center primarily, and through the remaining 6 in a specific order. The ray predisposes a human being to certain strengths and weaknesses and constitutes his or her principle of limitation, as well as endowing us with capacity. It governs the method of our relations to other human types and is responsible for our reactions in form to other forms. It gives us our coloring and quality, our general tone on the 3 planes of the personality, and it molds our physical appearance. Certain attitudes of mind are easy for one ray type and difficult for another, and hence the changing personality shifts from ray to ray, from life to life, until all the qualities are developed and expressed. And after his intensive study and work and expression of the rays through his book, Tapestry of the Gods, both volumes, Michael Robbins counseled us that we are all the rays. So let us consider the rays. The great second ray, which is the ray of our solar system and the soul ray of our planet. I see the greatest light. Centralization. The quality of hidden vision. Inclusive reason. The love of love must dominate. Construction of forms through group intercourse. Stimulation of desire, the life principle. Soul impulse or energy. Breathe into this concept of centralization and hold one of these ideas in your consciousness as we move forward together. I assert the fact, inclusion, the tendency innate and eradicable to blend and synthesize. I still persist. Destruction of forms through group interplay. Stimulation of the self or egoic principle. Spiritual impulse or energy. Hold the thought of inclusion, and in silence determine a phrase that you will hold in your mind. Purpose itself am I. Stillness. The instinct to formulate a plan. I am the worker and the work, the one that is. The love of truth must dominate. Vitalizing of forms through group work. Stimulation of forms, the etheric or pranic principle. Material impulse or energy. Stillness. Remember one of these phrases and hold it in your consciousness. Two merge with one. Steadfastness. The urge to create life through the divine faculty of imagination. Beauty and glory veil me not. I stand revealed. I am. The love of unity must dominate. perfecting of forms through group interplay, stimulation of the solar angels or the monastic principle, Buddhic energy, steadfastness. Hold one of these phrases in your consciousness. Three minds unite: detachment, the factor of analysis. I mastered energy, for I am energy itself. The master and the mastered are but one. Love of the form must never hide the life. Correspondence of forms to type through group influence. Stimulation of logoic, dense, physical body, the three worlds. Monastic energy or impulse. The ray of the fifth root race, the fifth subrace. Detachment. Hold one of these thoughts in your consciousness. The highest light controls restraint. The quality innate in man to idealize. I am the seeker and the sought. I rest. Die not for outer forms. Love more your fellow men. The power to kill out desire. Reflection of reality through group work. Stimulation of the man through desire. Desire energy, instinct, and aspiration. Restraint. Hold one of these phrases as a thought in your consciousness. The highest and the lowest meet. Orientation. The interplay of the great dualities. The creative work is over. I, the creator, am. Naught else remains but me. Love not the work. Let love of God's eternal plan control your life, your mind, your hand, your ego. Union of energy and substance through group activity. Stimulation of all etheric forms. Vital energy. Orientation. Hold one of these ideas as a thought in your consciousness. Orientation, restraint, detachment, steadfastness, stillness, inclusion, centralization, the construction of forms through group intercourse, the destruction of forms through group interplay, vitalizing of forms through group work, perfecting of forms through group interplay, correspondence of forms to type through group influence, reflection of reality through group work, union of energy and substance through group activity. These great 7 rays of life flow into our system as 3 groups of energies pour forth from the cosmos. Those coming from certain great constellations which are to be found active in relation to our solar system, and which in the most ancient days have always been related in myth and legend to our system. To these constellations, ours is related in a peculiar way. They are the Great Bear, the Pleiades, and Sirius. Those coming from the 12 zodiacal constellations, and in a certain symbolism in the secret doctrine, this is the 12 vortices of the heart center of a great life. Pisces to Aries, the ordinary wheel. These are recognized as having a definite effect upon our system and our planetary life. And we enter at this point of time into a focus on Virgo, which in reality, we're told by Master DK, actually holds 8 constellations as the mother of the world. Those coming from the planets found within the periphery of the sun's sphere of influence, 12 in number, 7 sacred planets and 5 non-sacred, are also, in a way, the 12 vortices of the heart center of the life of our solar system. In this adapted diagram that DK gives us, adding to the transcending star in the Great Bear of the first ray, the star Sirius of the second ray, and the Pleiades, a star of which sends the third ray life. The will to be, the will to initiate, the will to love, the will to unify, and the will to evolve through Aries, Leo, and Capricorn of first ray, the second ray through Gemini, Virgo, and Pisces, and the third ray, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, transforming through the sun, and the rays of life then moving out as the rays of aspect to the rays of attribute, the will to harmonize, the will to act, the will to cause, and the will to express, transfiguring through the 7 sacred planets and the 4 non-sacred planets, and bringing into the earth these rays, the ray lives. Shambhala, recipient of the first ray energy, the Christ and the hierarchy, receiving the second ray energy, and humanity, governed by the star Alcyone or Alcyone, located in Taurus, receiving the third ray energy. For humanity, we can make the link by considering the numerology that relates to the rays on each subplane and the link to the 3 techniques that we have been studying. We use the constitution of man on the highest level of the abstract mind, where the sense of spiritual telepathy exists. It's related to the 5th ray and the first ray. Response to group vibration achieved after the 2nd initiation relates to the 5th ray and the 2nd ray in this particular rendering of the constitution of man. And where the soul vehicle is located for most of humanity, spiritual discernment, which develops through the 5th ray and the 3rd ray, knowledge, response to group vibration, love, and those 5 petals, the 5 vortices of the egoic lotus, and then the highest spiritual telepathy developed through the 1st ray, all part of the abstract mind. In order to achieve this ascendance and integration, on the etheric physical plane, control is achieved by the directing power of light energy and the devitalization of Maya. On the 6th subplane, that of the astral emotional body, control is achieved by the dissipating potency of distributed light, and glamours are dissipated through the technique of light. So that these sensitivities, emotional idealism, imagination, clairvoyance, psychometry, and clairaudience exist on the clear plate, the clear sphere of the astral field, with all the glamours dissipated. And the lower concrete mind, control is achieved by dispelling through focused light all the illusions. And clarity is found through discrimination of the pairs of opposites and the ultimate battle of the dweller on the threshold with the angel of the presence, so that the light of the presence can shine forth. So let us unite our thinking around the various themes of thought at this time of the full moon. revealing the hidden Christ within the womb of time. Christ in you, the hope and glory, merging the science of the rays, the science of the esoteric understanding of the constitution of man, and the three techniques as we move into the full moon of Virgo. And we will continue with this process in the coming months and the cycles of Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Capricorn as we consider all 15 rules of thought. Today we're focusing on the first 3 rules. Ben.
Master DK offers this teaching in esoteric astrology, linking the science of invocation and evocation of the will. From a certain point of view, one can generalize largely and say that these are correspondences in the solar system to the 3 great centers of force which produce and control manifestation and evolutionary progress in the human being. The monad, the center of force for the will to power. The great exterior yet controlling constellations are analogous to the center of force, which we call the monad, and to its universal will to power, which is distinctive of the first divine aspect. The Great Bear, the Pleiades, Sirius. Soul consciousness, through the 12 vortices of the center of force, for the will to love. The 12 constellations might be regarded as embodying the soul aspect, and for the present, their effect upon the individual must be regarded and should be studied in terms of consciousness and of the development of the life of the soul. This is, in essence, the will to love. The Pisces-Aries axis. Personality, the center of force for the will to know. The planets, 12 in number, 7 sacred planets and 5 non-sacred, are effective, using the word in a technical sense, in relation to the external life, environment, and circumstances of the individual. Their force contacts should be interpreted largely in terms of the human personality, the third divine aspect. They thus exemplify the will to know.
And take a moment. Hold your own consciousness in the group consciousness of the will to know, integrating the personality of the group. And now become conscious of the blending and fusing of the personality of the group with the group's soul, the will to love. Bringing all of our personalities and fusing and blending with our soul consciousness into the soul consciousness of our group. And to the greatest extent that we can, to the consciousness of the one world serving group, which Master DK called the new group of world servers. The three techniques of indifference, light, and the presence relate to how energy follows thought on the subplanes of the constitution of man and through the progression of the initiations of the threshold. Deja.
By means of the technique of indifference, Maya is ended. For the control of the purified astral vehicle is consciously and technically brought into activity, producing the freeing of the energies of the etheric body from the control of matter or force substance, and bringing men in large numbers onto the probationary path, where there is divine indifference to the call or the pull of matter. Then inspiration becomes possible to use matter with complete impersonality, enabling one to live a life inspired by God. Inspiration is the applied power of transmission. Using the creative imagination, hold a vision of your being, inspired as the transmitting agent of the soul. The groups with which you are working and affiliated as transmitting the radiance of the soul. The nations transformed as cooperative entities, as agents of the plan for humanity. The world evolving in alignment with the plan as the hierarchy is externalized.
Ellen.
By means of the technique of light, the illumined mind assumes control over the astral or emotional body and dissipates glamour. When light pours in, glamour fades out. Illumination dominates, and the vision of reality can be seen. Illumination is the applied power of transformation. Using the creative imagination, hold a vision of your being illumined. Transformed. The groups with which you are working and affiliated. Transformed. The nations. Transformed. The world. Transformed.
Heike.
By means of the technique of the presence, the soul assumes control of the integrated personality and of its relations, horizontal and vertical. This technique involves the unfolding of the flower of intuition, dispelling illusion, revealing the angel, indicating the presence, and opening up to the disciple the world of ideas and the door of the higher initiations. Through the disciple's grasp and application of these divine ideas or thoughts, the disciple becomes an initiate, and the third initiation becomes possible as an immediate goal. The intuition is the applied power of transfiguration. This technique is related to the little-known yoga called Agni Yoga, or the yoga of fire. Let us remember Master DK's teaching and the presence. Stage by stage, each person progresses from one state of illusion or glamour to another, from one point of discriminative opportunity to another, until they have developed three major capacities. The capacity to handle force, devitalizing Maya. The capacity to tread the middle way between the pairs of opposites, dissipating glamour. And the capacity to use the intuition by dispelling illusion. You must bear in mind that none of these three stages are in reality divided off from each other by clear lines of demarcation, nor do they follow each other in a clear sequence. They proceed with much overlapping and often with a partial simultaneity. It is only when the disciple faces certain initiations that they awaken to the fact of these distinctions. The clear, cold light is the light of pure reason, of infallible intuitive perception, and its unremitting, intensive, and revealing light constitutes a major test in its effects. The initiate discovers the depth of evil and at the same time is enticed forward by the heights of a growing sense of divinity. The clear, cold light reveals two things: the omnipresence of God throughout nature, and therefore throughout the entire personality life of the initiate or of the initiate group. The omnipresence of divinity within all forms pours in upon the consciousness of the initiate, and the mystery of time, space, and electricity stands revealed. The major effect of this revelation, prior to the third initiation, is to bring to the disciple a realization of the great heresy of separateness, as it focuses in him the separated, fully conscious individual aware of his past, conscious now of his ray.
Take a moment and see if you can bring to your mind the phrase that came to you as we reviewed the statements from Master DK in Esoteric Psychology 1 and 2 related to each of the rays. For some, this is a hint to the dominant ray, the ray of the personality, the ray of the soul, but it also can be, for some, the ray of the monad. So how does this progression relate to our thought and to the ajna center as it develops and eventually merges into the crown center? First, Master DK tells us energy follows thought, and the I directs the energy involving the physical plane and relating to the first initiation by beginning to use the technique of indifference to devitalize Maya. And clarity can be achieved. The left eye, the eye of Manas, the right eye, the eye of Buddhi, onto the screen of the mind. The second energy follows thought, concerns the ajna center itself and the so-called third eye, the spiritual eye. The will is involved. It's an expression of the law of sacrifice involving the astral plane. And eventually the astral fogs disappear. Consider how energy follows thought in the dissipation of glamour, and that this is an expression of the law of sacrifice. Sacrificing the desires of the astral field. And this relates to the second initiation. The third energy follows thought that DK gives us, concerns the heart center, the advancing point of light. Just for a moment, remember what we were reading and considering as the will to know, and that heart center of pure reason the planetary influences, and link up to the advancing point of light that stems from the 12 constellations in the heart center, 12 vortices, and what is streaming through, in this case, Virgo. Christ within the hope and glory, energy falling thought into the heart center in the head. For the monad is to the planetary logos what the third eye is to man. And the spark of the presence reveals that monadic influence. And this involves the mental plane and relates to the third initiation. And once those initiations are transcended, we come to the fourth energy following thought, concerning the head center, the light of purpose. Remembering that none of these stages are in reality divided off from each other by clear lines of demarcation, nor do they follow each other in a clear sequence as the ajna center opens and eventually merges with the crown center. And Master DK advises each of us and each group that this proceeds based on the individual ray that is dominating that individual soul vessel. Catherine.
May the holy ones, whose disciple I am, show me the light I seek. Give me the strong aid of their compassion and their wisdom. There is a peace which passes understanding. It abides in the hearts of those who live in the eternal. There is a power which maketh all things new. It lives and moves in those who know the self as one. May that peace brood over us, that power uplift us, till we stand where the one initiator is invoked, till we see his star shine forth.
Margie, will you continue through the next few slides?
Let us enter into an even deeper alignment with the group soul and see our group approaching Master DK's study. To develop our group focus in dissipating glamour, we use the creative imagination, controlled by the mind transmitting an image from the abstract mind onto the astral field, facing the group members as if eye to eye, and establishing a soul-to-soul connection. In silence, we withdraw from personal and world affairs and center on the work to be done, setting up a magnetic field of positive, receptive activity. In silence.
Bringing into our awareness those who join us from the other side of the veil.
Assume the attitude of the observer. Envision your etheric body, your aura, which includes your health aura. Envision your astral, emotional aura. And finally, your mental aura, encapsulating your expressed etheric radiance and your place upon the path of evolution, your personal instrument. See the outline of these spheres, these auras, in a unity. Now imagine the interconnections, the elemental and Davic streams flowing, relating, connecting these auras as a single unified field, and sound the words of Roberto Assagioli. I have a body. I am not my body. I have emotions. I am not my emotions. I have a mind. I am not my mind. Now lift the attention within these united spheres to the highest point, the deepest point of life within your being, the soul, and say, I am the soul. I am light divine. I am love. I am will. I am fixed design. Our aim is to embody spiritual discernment, practice positive harmlessness, and eventually achieve a state of divine indifference as we dispel illusion, dissipate glamours, devitalize Maya in all our relationships. More radiant than the sun, purer than the snow, subtler than the ether, is the self, the spirit within my heart. I am that self am I. I am one with my group brothers and sisters, and all that I have is theirs. May the love of the one soul pour forth to all. May the energy of the one soul lift and aid all. May the thoughts which the soul creates reach and encourage all. May the energy of the divine self be spread abroad in our hearts, through our groups, and throughout the world. We align as receptive vehicles of soul consciousness to receive impressions from the ashrams of the masters. Knowing an ashram is a place of quietly confident, regulated effort. The plan and the immediate service activity are known, and disciples and initiates, each aware of his task and equipment, proceed to carry out the phase of the one work which is theirs. Each senses its relationship to the phases of the work undertaken by his group brothers. It is in learning to see the picture whole, as the Master ever sees it, that confidence and security are developed. Linking your heart, head, and ajna center, find the spark of monadic life hidden within the center of your being. Allow this point, that which you perceive as the presence, to permeate your entire being. Aligned with the soul of all, draw down soul radiance into the egoic lotus, the soul vehicle, the vessel of the soul in incarnation. Silence. Receive from the ashram.
As the greater group that is formed and is forming, becoming the channel for the dissipation of glamour and dispelling of illusion, using the sign of the cross of divinity, let us sound together the protective formula. As the soul, we work in light, and darkness cannot touch us. We take our stand within the light. We work, and from that point, we never move. Maintaining a focused, immovable will as the point of tension, the identification of the brain, mind, and soul with the will aspect, and the preservation of that identification, unchanged and immovable in all circumstances and difficulties. Remembering that the will aspect is contacted only from the mental plane, and only those, therefore, who are working with and through the mind can begin to appropriate this energy. Project lines of lighted energy across the channel of light that bridges the channel from humanity through the one world serving group and links the souls of all with the hierarchy along the Antakarana. I assert the fact. I see the greatest light. Purpose itself am I. Two merge with one. Three minds unite. The highest light controls. The highest and the lowest meet. Envision, as we project the lines of light to the hierarchy in unity with the Christ consciousness, the will to love, and the enlightened wisdom of the Buddha. And in affirmation we sound. In the center of the will of God we stand. Naught shall deflect our will from God's will. We implement that will by love. We turn towards the field of service. As the triangle divine, we work out that will within the square and serve humanity. The will to initiate. The will to unify. The will to evolve. the will to harmonize, the will to act, the will to cause, the will to express, the will to express the will of love, the will to love, as goodwill on the field of service. Using the powers of transmission, illumination, and the sparks of intuitive force streaming from the planetary lives which were aligned with the full moon of Virgo. As those stream into the hierarchy from Mercury, the will to harmonize, Venus, the will to act, and with the moon veiling Vulcan, the will to initiate, veiling Neptune, the will to cause, and Uranus, the will to express. We ride up along the Antakarana on these streams of focused will to the Christ as the central point of the hierarchy, with the Buddha, the will to love and the will to good. We align with that great identity, a living unity, which we call presence, the presence, to reveal the hidden Christ within. Mother and child, I, God, I, matter, am. And we absorb the lighted lines of divine ideals into the mind of the world-serving group as divine ideas, issuing forth from the rain cloud of knowable things to be distributed into the abstract mind as soul, spiritual discernment in the soul vessels, the soul vehicles, the egoic lotus, the highest heart in each of us. And we enter together into a beam of directed, focused light, revealing a greater light and illumining the way to the center of the light, directing our way. Now merging into the group presence with those joining subjectively from the other side of the veil. From all the enlightened service activities, our current service groups and triangles of light, in the heart, mind, and heart of the head, we sound the mantra of light. Radiance we are and power. We stand forever with our hands stretched out, linking the heavens and the earth, the inner world of meaning and the subtle world of glamour. We reach into the light and bring it down to meet the need. We reach into the silent place and bring from thence the gift of understanding. Thus, with the light we work and turn the darkness into day. Affirming, we say in unison, the light is one, and in that light shall we see light. This is the light that turns the darkness into day. Sound a silent Om as the group soul on its own plane, sounded forth by the group soul, the realized unity of the souls of all the group members. Sounding a silent Om as the soul on the mental plane. Dispelling illusion. And now sounding the Om as the soul on the astral plane, the soul ready to function as light bearer and distributor of light upon the astral plane, dispelling illusion and dissipating glamour. We pause as we attempt to throw behind this united triple light that we've created together in consciousness, our directed, united, and dynamic will or intent along the projected beam, the destructive quality of the spiritual will, destructive to all that hinders the manifestation of divinity, devitalizing Maya, dissipating glamour, and dispelling illusion. We've attained a united point of tension. We have dedicated individual and a group will to the will of God. And this act of will carried forward by each member silently with a deep realization that all of us are thus accepted and that it is a group will which is being silently focused. With power upon its beam, the light is focused on the goal. Now, each of us in our own way, in a period of focused silence, first, visualize with the spiritual eye of the soul the Maya devitalized on the physical etheric plane and humanity rising to act with divine indifference, aligned with goodwill in action. Now, each of us in our own way, envisioning the clearing of the fogs of glamour with the focused light, the triple light of brain and mind of the world-serving group, merged with the soul light of the greater group, dissipating the glamours that are limiting clear vision, causing confusion, and hindering the plan for humanity. And now each of us in our own way, imagining a potent, directed light, a vision of the energy of the presence, dispelling all illusions that hinder the work of the one serving group, the new group, to assist and aid humanity. And the awakening of the hidden light, the presence, the soul vessel to assist and aid humanity. And we silently reconnect to the great web of light, illuminating the jewel in the lotus, the central vessel, the spark of the presence in the crown of the group. Sounding silently, Om Mani Padme Hum.
With increasing indifference. With increasing indifference to the Maya of the etheric physical plane, as servers, we move gradually to a point of identification with the soul of all, eventually achieving divine indifference. It is divine indifference which is responsible for the fact that in attempting to describe pure being or God, and in the effort to arrive at some understanding of the nature of divinity, the formula of negation has been evolved. God is not this, God is not that, God is no thing, God is neither time nor space, God is not feeling or thought, God is not form or substance. God simply is. God simply is. God is apart from all expression and manifestation as the manipulator of energy, the creator of the tangible and the intangible worlds, the purveyor of life, or the indweller in all forms. God is the one who can withdraw, and in withdrawing, dispel, dissipate, and devitalize all that has been created, using those words in their fullest significance. We strive for indifference as it leads to right illumination. which is another name or aspect of right direction. Right illumination will take the place of glamour, and the objective, personally considered, of the group of disciples utilizing the technique of the trained observers is to bring light into dark places and illumination into their lives.
We stand in unison, serving under the law of abstraction, and blend the lights of matter and of mind to fuse and blend with soul light. The act of abstraction produces the dispelling of the illusory world of thought, the withdrawal of the divine attention dissipates the sentient universe and brings glamour to an end. The cessation of divine direction brings death to the physical world. All these activities are evidence of the will, or of the first aspect, the will to good, which can and will function in perfection only when goodwill is finally and fully developed on earth through the agency of humanity. The will and the breath, my brother, are occultly synonymous terms. In this statement, you have the clue to the ending of Maya.
In the teachings of Master Dwal Kul, he tells us that this process of eliminating glamour and dispelling illusion, particularly the use of the technique of divine indifference, proceeds up to and through the achievement of the fourth initiation.
Oops. It must never be forgotten that all egos work in group formation and under the direct control of those thinkers who embody the divine logoic thought. The work of every aspirant, therefore, seeks to do is to bring the brain consciousness in line with that thought which reaches him via his own soul consciousness. Bring the brain consciousness in line with the thought which reaches him via his own soul consciousness. And in the consummation of this, the divine plan is gradually worked out into manifestation on the physical plane. As each Son of God brings the active mind stuff for which he is responsible into such a condition that it becomes responsive to divine thought, then will the plan of the ages be carried to a conclusion. The work of the aspirant to union is to swing the mind stuff gradually and increasingly under the higher impulse and away from the lower vibration, until the responsiveness to the higher becomes a stable condition and the vibratory activity of the lower man fades and dies out. The importance of developing the use of creative imagination to stimulate the opening of the Ajna Center. It is in connection with this effort that he discovers the value, use, and purpose of the creative imagination. This creative imagination is all that remains to him eventually of the active and intensely powerful astral life which he has lived for so many lives. As evolution proceeds, his astral body becomes a mechanism of transformation. Desire being transformed into aspiration, and aspiration itself being transformed into a growing and expressive intuitive faculty. The reality of this process is demonstrated in the emergence of that basic quality which has always been inherent in desire itself, the imaginative quality of the soul, implementing desire and steadily becoming a higher creative faculty as desire shifts into ever higher states and leads to ever higher realizations. This faculty eventually invokes the energies of the mind, and the mind plus the imagination becomes in time a great invocative and creative agent. It is thus that the spiritual triad is brought into rapport with the threefold personality.
Recognizing that our ideas about the rules of thought emanate from the concrete mind, let us attempt to relate our thinking to the soul qualities seeking expression. Some of these qualities, related by color to the soul as soul expressions, appear here. Look at them and see if you can find one that is the soul quality that you seek to express and bring into the formation of a thought form. As we review the first three rules of thought. When you reflect on this process, you may find some of these words also appropriate. And as we view the world of thought, and separate out the false out of the true, conceive of that soul quality guiding your view of the world of thought. At the close of this particular recording, we will come back and gather our ideas about this rule of thought. Learn the meaning of illusion, and in its midst, locate the golden thread of truth. Consider that soul quality that you're hoping to bring into your expression of this rule of thought. Control the body of emotion, for the waves that rise upon the stormy seas of life engulf the swimmer, shut out the sun, and render all plans futile. Consider that quality, the soul quality, that you want to bring into expression in relation to this rule of thought. We're going to close this recording and create a separate recording of our sharing. But let us, for the sake of those who join us using the recording, sound the mantra of the new group of world servers, the mantra of the One World Serving Group.
May the power of the one life pour through the group of all true servers. May the love of the one soul characterize the lives of all who seek to aid the great ones. May we fulfill our part in the one work through self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and right speech.
And for those of us who will be coming together again, and those listening to the recording, let us keep silence and the light will enter as we move through this time of the Virgo full moon. Our next meeting will be on Saturday, September 20th, at which time we'll review the rules of thought, the 4th, 5th, and 6th. Thank you for joining us in the recording, and blessings at this holy time.